What's up? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel, Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective, and I'm here for the news. And here yesterday, there was another news clip that came up where people inside of the military, especially with inside of the Navy SEALs, were complaining to the umpteenth degree that there's a lot of drug use going on, allegations of sexual abuse, allegations of abuse of people trying to join the Navy SEALs. There are allegations that have rocked the Navy SEALs over the past 10 years. Now, these are some of the clips that you can see. Drug use allegations rock Navy SEALs. Navy SEALs talk publicly about drug use in the ranks. Navy SEALs recruits being tear gas prompts investigation. Navy SEALs, current and former Navy SEALs allege criminality and drug use within the Navy SEALs. Now we'll go, I might, take a look at a little piece of those clips. I don't want to, make this video too long, but within the Navy SEALs and the military, they have their own court system, court martial. Now you can be court martialed in the military, but the problem with having a separate justice system is that it's easier to cover things up and it's easier to smooth things over. But obviously, within the Navy SEALs, there is a huge problem. And somebody's going to have to tackle this problem because it's getting out of control. Let's take a look at the clip.
The Navy's investigation into its grueling Navy SEAL selection course, finding it had become dangerous, even deadly. The investigation coming after 24-year-old Kyle Mullen collapsed and died just hours after completing what's known as Hell Week. My Kyle's brother is.
And let me say this. I'll let the video keep going, but growing up, I used to love watching the military channel. And I used to love to watch the buds training. They laying in the water, they carrying logs, they carrying boats, and they wasn't getting no sleep. And I just thought that was just so cool to see the people overcome all that adversity. But in the back of my mind, I always thought, damn, it seems like somebody could easily die from this. But in order to be a Navy SEAL, obviously you would need grueling training for the type of missions that they ask those guys to do. But the buds training has gotten out of control because the people who are doing the training aren't on the up and up anymore. Like they said, a lot of these people who are dealing in criminality now, drug abuse, real drug abuse, alcoholism, and so on and so forth.
Speaking out, calling for the Navy to be held accountable. Here's ABC's Chief Global Affairs Correspondent, Martha Rathens.
Navy SEAL selection has always been grueling, but in recent years, says this highly critical report, the training has taken on unacceptable risks, leaving some candidates injured, hospitalized, and even one young SEAL candidate dead. The report citing what it called a near-perfect storm, with lack of leadership, insufficient risk assessment, and wholly inadequate medical monitoring and care following the notorious Hell Week. 24-year-old Kyle Mullen had successfully finished Hell Week in February of 2022, then was released by medical staff to his barracks, even though his lungs were deemed abnormal and his legs so swollen he was wheelchair bound. The report says at the barracks, Mullen was struggling to breathe, but there was no medical personnel available. And when fellow candidates finally found a duty officer, the report says the provider insisted care wasn't needed. Mullen died shortly afterwards.
And like I said before, within the Navy SEALs, or within the military in general, not just the Navy SEALs, but within the military in general, they have their own court system. So it makes it extremely difficult. A lot of this stuff is leaked out through just sheer frustration of not being able to get nothing done. There are people within the military, I don't care what aspect of government, military, FBI, CIA, there's always a pocket in a group of good people. But with power, we know power corrupts. So when some of these people gain power, the corruption is real. But there's always a pocket of good in there. There's always people willing to risk it all to leak this information, to try to get help, to at least try to make some kind of change.
Many people were involved. Many people tried to cover up committed wrongdoings, and accountability has not come.
Graduation rates from the SEALs
Told you.
have been declining in recent years. The report saying one commander blamed it on this generation of SEAL candidates for having less mental toughness, and another saying 0 is an okay number, hold the standard.
Martha Raddatz joining us now. Martha, we heard Kyle's brother there mentioning accountability. How is the Navy responding now?
The Navy has already made changes to the course, and multiple Navy personnel could still face disciplinary action. The head of Naval Special Warfare says they will embrace all of the recommendations to improve the training. Whit?
Martha, thank you.
And that's just one of many problems. We're going to take a small, look at this clip right here. Where the Navy SEALs, actual Navy SEALs who were current Navy SEALs, publicly disguising their faces because they don't want the retribution and revenge to come down on them about what's actually happening in the Navy SEALs. Let's take a look at this clip. And this video is from, let's look and see. This video from 6 years ago. So, like I said, over the past 10 years, there's been a lot that has came out about the Navy SEALs. They are one of the best fighting units in the world, but it's starting to be corrupt, and they're starting not to graduate as many people, and it's starting to get to a point to where something has to be done. There's some changes that have to be made.
Most honored and vital units in the U.S. military is battling an enemy within. For the first time, Navy SEALs are talking to us about drug abuse in the ranks. David Martin is investigating this.
I'm sitting in this chair because I'm not proud anymore to be in the community because of the direction it's going.
These 3 Navy SEAls,
They so scared of the retribution that they're saying what they're saying, but it's somebody else's voice saying it. Like they don't even, because they know the military, they have voice recognition. They can figure out who these people are within seconds. That's why they got a hood on, black glasses. Hey, the military some of their technology is so advanced, they might still be able to figure out who some of these people are.
active duty to retire, agreed to talk to us on camera if we disguise their faces and change their voices to protect them from retribution.
People that we know of, that we hear about, have tested positive for cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, marijuana, ecstasy. That's a problem.
How prevalent is drug abuse in the SEAL teams?
It's growing. The drug use, it's growing.
Last December, as this email shows, the SEALs halted all training in order to safety stand down because of the drug problem.
I feel like I'm watching.
And let's remember the video I just showed you the other day. They said they changed stuff, but obviously this was 6 years ago, and we just had the video that was released yesterday that said there's still the same problems. Nobody's fixing anything. That's why this information will continue to get leaked.
Our foundation, our culture eroded in front of my eyes.
Captain Jamie Sands, commander of the 900 SEALs based on the East Coast, had been on the job for just 3 months. Already 5 SEALs had been kicked off the teams for using drugs.
Feel betrayed. How do you do that to us? How do you decide that it's okay for you to do drugs?
Every SEAL under his command was required to attend this meeting or else watch it online. In response to our request, the Navy released an edited version of the video. Before Sands spoke, his chief of staff rattled off what he called a staggering number of drug cases. He said showed that the Navy's special operators had a higher incidence of drug use than the rest of the fleet.
It's a population that's supposed to be elite performers, all with classifications to where they have national security information and responsibilities. That's dangerous to my teammates.
If we need your ability,
You hear what he said? When you're doing these hardcore narcotics, whether it be cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines, it makes you real loose. And the last thing you want is somebody loose at the tongue who holds all this classified information. Because the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, at any time, they can know who's who or might find out who's who, and they can send what they call them honey pots after you. Them ladies, disguised as, some sweet nookie, but they ain't nothing but a sweet spy. I want to go, before I turn this off, I want to take a look at this other clip too of Navy SEALs' current alleged criminality.
Welcome back to CBS's.
And you can see this video is from 2 years ago. So year after year, this stuff keeps coming out. So I went to 6, 2, and the first one was just from yesterday. So you can see this is a problem that they keep coming out.
Morning, a CBS News investigation has uncovered evidence of criminality and drug use among America's Navy SEALs. Catherine Herod spoke to current and former SEALs who wish to stay anonymous. And while most of the SEALs have served with honor, we know that, they say that the bad ones tend to have outsized influence. Catherine, good morning to you. We're hearing that one of the guys even used the word evil, and that this shift came after the Bin Laden raid 10 years ago. This is very, very surprising. Good morning.
Gail, we spoke with more than a dozen people who are part of the SEAL community or work directly with the SEALs who said the problems persist, and they said the celebrity that came with the raid made some SEALs feel untouchable.
Yeah, I remember that. Navy SEALs, it was supposed to be they can complete any mission in the world and they would never talk about it, and no one individual SEAL would ever take credit for it. But there was a man who took credit for the Bin Laden killing, and he wrote books and he was on all type of TV shows, and he just took all the glory of that. And that goes against everything the Navy SEALs are supposed to be. Their morals and standards and their secrecy and their, dedication to one another, and, no gloating, and, teamwork made the dream work.
Days after 9/11, President Bush launched a massive global manhunt for Ground Zero.
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
A decade later, the search ended at his compound in Pakistan, where the quiet professionals of SEAL Team 6 executed the mission and were thrust into the headlines.
The United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, leader of Al-Qaeda.
We love the job, we love the community, but it has taken a wrong turn.
3 SEALs, including one on active duty, sat down with CBS News on the condition we change their voices and hide their identities. Why the disguise?
We are risking a lot to be here, risking careers, possible safety.
The group told us there are bad SEALs with outsized influence on the teams.
There are 3 groups in the teams. There's a small group on one side that is evil. They're lawless. There's a small group on the other side that stands up to them. And then there's a giant group in the middle that cowardly stays out of it. They watch the evil guys railroad the good guys.
2 SEALs recently pleaded guilty in the strangulation of Green Beret Logan Melgar in West Africa. His death has been described as a hazing incident gone wrong.
I don't believe it. This didn't just happen suddenly. There were 100 steps leading up to that. Lawlessness, narcissism, thinking they're untouchable.
And there's the controversial case of Edward Gallagher, who was accused of killing a teenage ISIS prisoner in 2017. He was put on trial for war crimes, but in surprise testimony, a SEAL medic who'd been granted immunity confessed to what he described as a mercy killing. Then President Trump publicly sided with the SEAL.
With Eddie Gallagher, you know that story very well. They wanted to take his pin away, and I said, no, you're not going to take it away. He was a great fighter.
In the end, Gallagher was convicted of a lesser charge of posing with the prisoner's body.
But I am angry. I feel betrayed.
Drug abuse.
But, I don't want to go through this whole clip, but you got to get the gist of, some of the problems that's going on within the military, and especially within the Navy SEALs. There are other groups in the military that have the same problems, a lot of sexual abuse. Like I said, this is really not a place for women. Women do go into the military, but it's a lot of testosterone flowing. As you can see, Navy SEALs themselves say there's a lot of narcissism going. It's a lot of ego. And, going into these situations, it can be extremely dangerous. Obviously, we need the military. There's no doubt about that. That's our first line of defense and our back line of defense. But there also has to be justice, and it also has to be a sense of balance and accountability for the military and the Navy SEALs. But I just wanted to go over that clip. This has been Sports, Life, and Politics TV. I'm Samuel Koppel, YouTube's #1 couch detective. I'm here for the news. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. I just took your ass on a Navy SEAL Buzz Training. It's too dangerous ride.